Let's begin. In the last update, I worked on the combat system and the inventory system, and I was talking about how I really want to make the game more culinary because it's supposed to be a culinary game, but I haven't built out anything that really makes it feel that way yet. So since the first quest give you a jelly recipe, I wanted to work backwards and figure out what all the systems I need to create will be. It's always nice to build on what already exists. I don't really like making things that are not connected to an existing system. So I decided to come up with the initial plot line for the first zone. I have a general idea, but you kind of need to know the story in order to figure out what to build next. So I came up with the opening scene, and I figured out that I wanted to integrate the slime monster combat into unlocking the initial town. I want to integrate the first recipe and make it more meaningful by having the player drop jellies on the NPC souls or something to awaken them, or maybe you're just gifting them to build some relations with the NPCs so that they will give you quests. Kind of like when you would join a new neighborhood and you're giving gifts to your neighbors, I suppose. I worked on the quest system, I built out the first town, and made the first NPC as well. So that's really exciting. So one of the things that I love to do is break down tasks. I'll show a preview of what that looks like. Something as simple as trying to make a jelly will require a ton of systems. And this doesn't even get to the whole boiling the water to create the jelly. So yeah, it's a lot. But I think putting it out like this does help visualize and not get so overwhelmed because you just know that, oh, I'm not taking a while. It just has a lot of things that I need to do, a lot of moving parts. And I think it's a pretty good representation of how complex game development can be. Something so simple as many different things working together in concert. Yeah. And just looking at this list of all of the things that I said I would do, I managed to do these things up to, yeah, I guess it's up to the mining part. The next weeks will be doing all of the mining and equipment and furnace work, and we should be in a good place to then in the next following weeks to make the ability to actually cook something. And then if we look at Jira, you can see how this sprint has gone. Yeah, each one takes a few hours of focus time. Yeah, this is just to give you an idea of what my workflow generally looks like. I probably won't showcase much more of this. So initially I had gone with some really simple, naturey looking tiles for the monster map, but since I actually made the town this time, I wanted to really think about what is the feel of it, what do the NPCs look like, and things like that. So I did do another iteration on the visuals. Since the first zone is called Cookie Academy, I definitely want to introduce the cookie concept, maybe some milk theme as well to match the vibe of Cookie Clicker. Since this game in general was inspired by Yumero which is a show about a girl who goes to this culinary school to become a pastry chef. I wanted to make this the kitchen area. So there will be ovens and stoves here. Because of that, I wanted to make checkered tiles, but black and white didn't really make sense. So I ended up iterating until I came up with something that looks a bit more expected for a cookie-inspired and culinary-inspired first zone. And it kind of looks like those shortbread checkered cookies. And then you have these chocolate chips in the soil area. I'm actually really happy with how this came out. So it's really exciting to see this look more and more like it is a cookie world. There's a lot more that I want to do, but I think I will just iterate gradually as I make more and more zones. And there will be backgrounds as well. Right now we have a simple sky, but coming soon, one step at a time. So I think after making this change, the bright blue portal looked really out of place. So I replaced it with a deep chocolate brown color instead. And you can kind of imagine that as a player, you're traversing through a stream of chocolate as you're going between each map. That's a bit fun, right? I think sometimes it's hard to imagine that the game will look any better when you have a bare bones version, but I think with these style iterations these past couple of weeks, it gave me a lot more faith and excitement to see how it'll continue to change over time. I made the first NPC as well. I wasn't really sure whether I wanted the NPCs to be human or not, and if so, what skin tone, how large they will be, all of these kind of things. But I decided to make a pastry chef teacher, and perhaps that character will be the first one who introduces you to the plot line and gives you the first quests. I decided to make the NPC body taller than the player because when you're in a multiplayer game, sometimes you could have people stacked on top of the NPC, and that would be annoying if you can't actually press the NPC. I also designed the NPC dialogue bubbles, and I implemented enough so that it can give you a quest to hook into the quest system. It isn't very polished yet, but I think just something workable to be able to trigger the other flows is enough for now, and over time, I'll handle things like keeping track of which quest is able to give the player right now, whether the dialogues have already been said, and things like that. So in order to view your quest progress, I implemented both a quest tracker that you can have open or minimized in the gameplay view, and then also the codex, which will store many different subsystems in the game, but it will have at least the quest log, it will have eventually the monster card deck, and access to other crafting systems in the game. The UI for this is quite big, but I imagine that the player will have it open while they're doing like auto combat or just not in a dangerous situation. It won't hold any systems that are core to gameplay, it's more of a reference manual. And now if we go to the slime map, you'll see that you have the quest tracker that's updating as you kill the slime. So it's nice to have everything hooked together. There are still some bugs, of course. I don't know if you can call it bugs at this point anyway, they're just unimplemented. But I'm really excited to see the progression and have some purpose, to killing the slimes. So yeah, that's it for these last 2 weeks. In the upcoming weeks, I'll be working on the mining scene and being able to smelt different ores. I'm actually very excited about that because I think it would be fun even to add mining sounds. I haven't added any sounds to the game yet, but I do love the sound of mining, and I have always enjoyed the mining part of games. So this is going to be very exciting. If you want to follow along with the process of creating this mobile culinary MMORPG, then feel free to subscribe. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave that as well. With all that said, I'll see you in the next update in about 2 weeks.